Hey friends, so I think one of the highest value things that I could talk about would be about romance and dating. And it's also something that I would say is probably one of the hardest things to talk about because it's so personal and everyone has a different experience. And lots of people have had bad experiences. And so, if you make a bunch of proclamations and directives and tell people what to do, it's very likely that whatever you suggest, something that you suggest will something in the thing that you suggest will rub someone off the wrong way and remind them of some bad experience that they've had, which is completely understandable. And so, to avoid misunderstanding, it's easier to just not say anything. But, so I have my main Twitter account and I have an alt, which is like a locked private account. I have a bunch of alts, but anyway. Um, and, sometimes when I talk about dating on alt, for example, I have friends who reach out and tell me all kinds of things. People feel lonely, people feel disconnected, like it's just this. It's complicated. There's so much going on, and just talking about dating. A while ago I made a bunch of videos about like cultural conflicts, and if you take like any two groups of people, let's say, take race relations in any country, not just whichever country you're in, right? And there's often like, decades or centuries of hostility and suspicion, and people, assume it's. I won't say they necessarily assume bad faith, but they cannot necessarily assume good faith because you don't know in advance whether or not the other person how the other person is going to think of you if you don't know well. And I think that's true even in conventional dating and like heterosexual dating between men and women. And I do think that it's worthwhile to try and make that space, do cleanup duty in that space, right? Which is to help people understand each other better and to help people be less suspicious of each other, less afraid of each other, less. And again, I've heard from so many different people about this over the years that I don't even know where I want to start. And people are always hurting, people are always going through difficult things, and I'm just going in circles, right? Caveats. Anyway, so one of the interesting things about being on Twitter is that I get to see like a genre of Twitter post I've noticed is when women post screenshots of texts that they've received from men that are inappropriate, that are creepy, pushy, gross, like the I mean, so the obvious, the kind of like chief, um what's the word, the most flagrant violation is the unsolicited dick pic, right? Like that's kind of a straightforward thing that people agree is you probably shouldn't do that. And even then, some people say, oh, but it's worked for me and I don't mind it sometimes and whatever. But like, it's there's not much. I don't know if I want to, like, I don't know if I could make a video about like the psychology of dick pics, and I don't know if I want to discuss that right now. But what I do want to discuss is that I've noticed this recurring kind of post where a man texts a woman that he doesn't know, or maybe it's like a colleague that he doesn't interact with outside of work, or sometimes I've seen something like it's a service provider, like like a food delivery guy or like a Uber guy, or like someone gets the number of some lady, and then they text them outside of that context, which and here's the part I want to focus on. They then very consistently say, I know this is wrong, I know I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not like those other guys who's a creep. I'm not a creep like those other guys. And so that's some forms of it. Other forms of it might be like, I know this is creepy, but like I and then it tends to be quite solipsistic. Like sometimes it's solipsistic. It's like self-focused. It's like I can't not message you, or I can't take it anymore, or I couldn't live with myself if I didn't text you, or I what else did they say? it's just there's this class of I know it's wrong for me to do this. I know that this is creepy and unpleasant. Nevertheless, I'm gonna do it anyway. And you know, I can imagine, and sometimes I do think that if you look at the messaging in pop culture, I would say up until fairly recently. So if you look at like 90s romantic movies and comedies and whatnot, it's like very often the hero is just like a charismatic creep, and his creepiness is forgiven because the the writing and the camera crew and everything, like it's set up to make him seem like the obvious romantic lead, right? But if like with just a slightly different treatment, you could make it out to be creepy, right? And very often women aren't the ones writing these. Sometimes they might be. So I don't know how to explain that. Like I guess conventions have shifted or something. But like maybe I don't know, right? But just I want to get into the psychology of the guy who sends a text knowing that he shouldn't be sending it and says so in the text, psychoanalyze these guys with me, right? What do you think is their motivation, or what do you think is going through their heads when they're doing this? I think they don't even seriously expect to receive a positive response. And I've heard this about guys who catcall as well. So where I'm from in Singapore, you don't really hear about catcalling much. It doesn't seem to be part of the culture. But I've heard about people saying that they've witnessed catcalls that seem to be joyless. Like it seems like the guy doing the catcalling isn't even enjoying himself. It's almost like he's doing it because he feels like it is his duty or his obligation, like he's supposed to do it. Like maybe if he's with other guys, there's some kind of performance aspect where you have to get a rise out of the woman to kind of score points with your buddies. I think that I can imagine that being the case for sometimes. But yeah, I want to kind of direct, there's this Bill Burr bit the comedy bit where he talks about like how men bully each other, call each other gay or fags because they did something thoughtful, like bring an umbrella when it's raining, like, oh, what are you? And it's a kind of ritualistic, and I don't want to say it's always abuse. I'm a guy. I served in the military. I know what it's like to have to have fun with other guys, kind of joshing around and making fun of each other a little bit. And it does serve some purpose. I do think done correctly, it can be a sort of healthy status regulation where you keep. There's this guy on Twitter who's recently kind of went off the deep end. Apparently, I don't know the specifics, but like someone else observed that, oh, maybe this guy didn't get like bullied by his male friends enough. Like his other friends didn't call him out on him being crazy or being weird, and so he got away with it. I don't know, it's complex. All this stuff is so complex. But okay, circling back, I wanted to talk about creepy messages. Why do guys do it? And I think back to kind of like there was a period in my life where I had broken up with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and we separated for a while. And in those 2 years or so that I was single, I do remember texting, DMing women, girls. I was a boy at the time, right? And I don't think I was super skillful in how I did it, but I also don't think I was ever outright creepy. I think I would try and ask a question like, do you like this thing, or I saw this thing, did you like that? And then if they just kind of don't reply, or if their reply is kind of like, haha, nah, like there isn't much of a reply, I just sort of let the conversation fade out. And no harm, no foul, nobody's hurt, right? Like that kind of. And I think that's like, I would prioritize that, generally speaking. Like that's what's globally optimal for everybody. Like you could say that, oh, if you're pushier, you might fail 8 out of 10 times and succeed 2 out of 10 times or whatever. But like, is it worth, is getting a date or getting a phone number or whatever, like, is that worth kind of making 5-6 people feel uncomfortable? Like, that's a decision you have to make. And I feel like that's I believe that it's not worth it. But you know, I'm a bit weird, right? I think about these things from these very big picture perspectives, and I care about how everyone else is doing, which I don't know. Maybe you know, my friends used to make fun of me as the mosh pit medic who worried about how everyone else in the mosh pit is doing. But that's me. You know, I've always kind of looked out for other people. But yeah, yeah, I don't know if I've succeeded in what I'm trying to do with this video, which is, I guess, just talk about the existence of creepy messages. And, you know, I don't know if guys who send creepy messages are the same guys who would watch a now 10-minute, 12-minute video from some guy on YouTube talking about creepy messages. You know, there is a certain preaching to the choir aspect where I suspect that most of my followers or subscribers who are interested in my work, they probably aren't creepy, and probably most of you guys, I'm guessing, could afford to be a little bit more forthright in your flirting and in your communication. But at the same time, I have heard from people, like, you never know with guys, right? You never know how, just it's statistically, I mean, like, some of you guys are definitely creeps, like, just by pure numbers. Like, some of you guys are definitely creeps, and you may not realize it. I don't want, you know, so I don't want to, if the shoe fits, right? Like, if you know that you're not, then okay, you know, I don't like it when people speak to an entire audience as though they're all guilty. Like, that's not right, right? It's a population thing, right? Most guys are alright, I think. I honestly think most guys are alright. But like, and you know, a lot of guys could use some help being a bit more charming, being a bit more, you know, like being able to convey that they're fun, that they're interesting, that they're safe. You know, like it's a challenge. I will get into that in later videos, but I'm past 11 minutes already, and I guess I just wanted to say that consider, yeah, so I guess my directive sort of is, before you send a message to anybody that isn't already your friend or isn't already someone that you have a relationship with, like, if do like a, you know how like political, like presidential campaigns, they run their own, they have like some part of the campaign attack their own campaign to just to game it out and see what the worst case scenario will be. Like, yeah, if you're gonna text someone that you don't know, like, run it through the worst case filter, like the most hostile bad faith filter, and try to see how it would make someone uncomfortable. Try to see how, like, don't send long ass texts to anybody, and frankly, you should never be sending long texts to anyone unless like you have that understanding with each other. But like, you know, if you're gonna text someone, keep it short, offer a compliment that's not like about their appearance ideally. You know, compliment them on something that they said, something that they did, you know, and ask a question that is interesting to answer. So I mean, there's a lot to get into this. I probably will make separate videos about this, but I just wanted to start a conversation, I guess, about, or like, you know, I want to make a bunch of videos about relationships and online dating, in-person interactions, and how you know, as a guy, I want to help men, particularly, like, I want to help guys be better at dating and succeed more and fail less. And you know, I love women as well, and I want to help women. I help women by helping men, right? Like, by helping guys do better. I think women would appreciate that as well. I feel like I've been rambling, so I'm gonna just end this here and done.